To be continued. Welcome to the Liberty UA channel. Today we have Denis Eliseevich with us. We are live. That's why I ask our viewers, please give us likes, write us comments, share our video, share this video. This way you will help our channel, and we really need your help. Denis, we didn't see each other yesterday, and I would like you to share your opinion regarding the fact that we have some achievements. After that, 4 years of war have passed, and we have achieved something, but we have also lost a lot. We all understand what we have lost and what we have achieved. And if we look at the fact that we are building this war in the 5th year, relying on it, then where are we going? What is our goal?
Well, what achievements are we even talking about? I don't see any achievements we can count as a plus. During these years of war, the 5th year has officially begun today. Only the heroism of the people stands out. And that very resilience that Zelensky talks about, well, it has nothing to do with the government. And, you know, I wouldn't want to be proud of resilience. I would like to be proud of a high GDP, the economy, achievements. That's what I would like to be proud of. But as it is, there are no achievements, although some people consider there are achievements. For example, we've started making drones but, well, that's not much. Like I said, then Iran could be proud that they invented Shaheds, or Iran could be proud of some missiles or something. I don't think that's a reason to be proud, a reason for pride for a normal country, not a totalitarian one. There's always the economy, the standard of living of the people, and how people themselves talk about life in their country. But that's another matter. For example, many Russians will say, yes, we love Russia, we love everything about it. But that's a special kind of zombie, the ones who are happy when social networks are banned, freedom of speech is restricted, and they're deprived of the political process. I'm just saying this for the viewers, and to clarify, by default, my mind is oriented toward Western civilization. Over there, people can do as they please, and others may choose to follow Sharia law. But we as Europeans take normal parameters as our basis.
Zelensky says that if we withdrew our troops from Donbass, we would nullify Ukraine's achievements in defense. Well, whether that's true or not is quite a complicated question, but in what way have we been nullified? There was something we had before the war started, and now this war has just nullified us in that regard.
Yes, the population, the number of people who have left, who have died, and who have become disillusioned with Ukraine, and as soon as the borders open, they will leave immediately, is off the charts. There will hardly be anyone who comes back, who returns. I want to tell you right away, even in the most optimistic scenarios, unless we're talking about a super president coming, up to 1 million people will return, but I think 3 to 5 million will leave. Instantly, in the very first year the borders are open. And this is really something that's missing about the economy. We didn't have an economy. Our GDP is $150 billion, of which 10 billion was sent by USAID and another 10 billion was sent by migrant workers. And, well, that's it. No one in Ukraine thinks about added value. We lost the land, loss. We lost the infrastructure, loss. Well, frankly speaking, all I see are losses, just horror, a nightmare. But I emphasize, as of today, February 25th, here we are live. All of this can still be fixed.
The authorities haven't reset their accounts. For example, they've only gotten richer. We can already see from investigations how much they've enriched themselves and continue to do so. But people's desire to go to the front has disappeared. Yesterday, we heard a lot of patriotic words and statements, and we agree that we are holding on only thanks to the strength of our troops and the support of our people. But you have to agree that the average citizen's desire to go to the front and fight is now zero.
Of course, and some people do speak out. Now we need to change the mobilization system. We need to do something else there as well. Of course, as soon as everyone understands, not just me and some part of the audience, that it really smells like elections now. Zelensky will definitely disband the TCC, that's for sure. It will be an election move. Now, Zelensky, if you heard, mentioned it. We have to, like Russia, well, so to speak, kind of buy soldiers, but for that we need European money. It won't work. It just won't work. I want to tell you, if today you give, where at the moment it's $1,000, you start giving $3,000. It won't motivate or encourage anyone. Nobody wants to die. No, maybe you'll find 20,000 people, but we're talking about much larger numbers, 200 or 300,000, that can truly make a difference at the front. But that's it. People are totally disappointed. The most important thing is the risk of death. That's, of course, the first thing. The risk of losing your health is the very first. They see it. But what exactly is the war about right now? As I said on my stream, until the end of 2023, well, with some stretch, up to the counteroffensive, up to the spring of 2023, it looked like an existential war. Today, it's pure politics. Both sides have reached a deadlock. Well, Russia is slowly taking bites, and we're somehow fighting back. They say that we've taken back some territories, like 400 square kilometers or 40 square kilometers. Everything is stuck. People keep dying. But for what? Putin's power there or Zelensky's here? No, I'm not saying those risking their lives on the front lines think that way. Of course, they don't live thinking, oh, I'm for Zelensky. I'm just stating facts. People on the front have different reasons. Some fight for Ukraine, some for family, some for money, and some simply don't want to be there. The USSR supporters, let's not bring up Soviet statistics again. But in fact, what is this war about? Starting from 2023, tell me, what has changed drastically? Well, we've lost some territory.
We've lost territory, we've lost people's willingness to go to the front. Life goes on, living in Ukraine. And what about the soldiers yesterday? They were talking about how we have values and Russians don't have values. And that's what sets us apart from Russians. And the fact that we have corruption, Zelensky has already talked about it, that we have corruption. And it's in Europe and it's in Russia too. But we are different from Russians in that they don't talk about it and we do. So what do you think? Can we be proud of this?
No, when I saw this segment from the BBC, I honestly don't understand anything anymore. Well, how can you even say something like that to a Western audience? Any reasonably thinking person will immediately start, wait, is that all that distinguishes you, that you talk about corruption? And again, I don't like how journalists work. Why didn't the journalist say to him, wait, you wanted to shut down NABU and SAPO to transfer their powers to the Prosecutor General's office in the summer of 2025. So, are you against fighting corruption? And what would he have answered to that? You know how these interviews are organized. I'll tell you about it. They make special arrangements. In this case, it was timed for the anniversary of the war, and it was necessary to say this. The world, you understand, it's important to tell people the world has changed greatly. If before, when a person watched, let's say, a titan of Western journalism, they would surely expect tough questions, questions that get to the point. But today, these corporate media are just microphone stands that serve the interests of clans. They, on the one hand, are bringing down Zelensky, and on the other hand, basically, they're not really doing anything else yet. Well, go fight against Russia, we need you to fight against Russia. If you think that anyone respects Zelensky over there, no one respects him in the West, not even in the European countries that still seem to stand by him. That's all.
Yesterday, his video address received 2 minutes of applause, but they applauded. Why? Why is that? Because our people are dying and we continue this fight. Yes, we continue this fight because we have no other choice. And if you ask people whether they are ready for the peace terms being offered or if we are ready to continue the fight, that's the same question. And Palisa gives the answer to it. How would you comment on this? He says that the enemy's plans are obvious. Their goal is to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk region by the end of March or the beginning of April, and to advance as much as possible in Zaporizhia and Dnipropetrovsk regions. And after that, their ambitions are Kherson, Mykolaiv, and eventually Odessa. By April, he says, this could happen, and then by the end of 2026, this strategy could be implemented. So yesterday we talked about 4 years of war. Now it's the 5th year, and we're discussing how things will progress. So do we agree with this or what?
Wait, Palisa said that in March of this year, Donetsk region will be captured.
Or whatever their goal will be by the end of March or the beginning of April to reach the administrative borders of Donetsk region.
Let's discuss the first episode now, since it's the soonest, right? I'm telling you, it's not going to work out before April, no way. But the most optimistic scenario for them is probably summer. If everything goes well, April will come, he'll come out and say they're not getting anywhere. You see, they set goals, but nothing is working out. Understand, Tatiana, if Putin's guys had said they would capture Donetsk by March, that would be one thing. But when Palisa tells me, and you and the viewers, about the Russians' plans, who would even believe that? Well, it's just ridiculous. But people are supposed to view this through the lens that all this is being watched and read by the US intelligence agencies, Trump's private services, the administration as a whole, and they all just see it as madness. Just yesterday, the Ukrainian ambassador, Stefanishina, the ambassador of Ukraine to the US, who is currently under criminal investigation for corruption in Ukraine, made a statement. And she starts attacking President Trump and his administration, saying that they have started to suppress things inside Russia and also target Trump. They called and said to stop because you're targeting companies vital to the US economy. Clearly, there's some financial connection. But when American companies are destroyed in Ukraine, he stays silent. That doesn't seem like gratitude toward an administration that wants to make peace. So why spread negativity now? Why target the administration? It's in the media, against the country, against the president. I'm talking about the US and Trump. They're the only ones who want and can achieve peace, since neither Putin nor Zelensky want it, but Trump does. And the attack comes from someone who's under criminal investigation. You know, they remind me of kamikazes, like Tatiana, kamikazes who just don't understand what's ahead. Just an hour before our stream, the news comes out. In Germany, a joint operation by the German and Spanish police caught a suspect in the murder of Portnov. I want to tell people right now, if they really start to clamp down and push this in the European media, then just throw it in the trash. All political news, all polls. This will turn the situation around 180 degrees if the truth comes out about who is involved. And we still don't know, how it usually happens. It's not that simple. They discovered him and caught him. They brought him in and caught him at the moment when it was politically necessary. For example, now everything will start snowballing. When these Stefanishinas make such statements, it's just talk. Stefanishina, the US ambassador, is simply following Makarova, her predecessor, as you remember.
Sent.
Well, there will be consequences, there will be consequences. And they are like headless horsemen. They've gone crazy. They're intoxicated by this impunity. Say whatever you want, ban whatever you want, insult, but I don't understand it. I really don't understand it at all.
We have conflicts with many, and if we take specifically Orban and Fico, the fact that we can't find common ground with them. At the state level, this affects our economic situation and their economic position as well. And in particular, they are putting pressure on this aid that was signed for us yesterday, but the EU still has to approve it. Whether we get these 90 billion or not depends on this situation. Are they saying that Ukraine should restore transportation again? Earlier, we demanded from Zelensky that he stop transporting oil because in this way we are sponsoring the aggressor country. Now they are setting us a specific condition. We have resilience and they have resilience too. They are also saying that we need this oil, so restore it. And if not, then you won't join the European Union. You won't get this aid, and they will also block sanctions against Russia.
This relationship with Orban, with Fico, with Hungary, with Slovakia, the way Zelensky behaves, it just is completely out of line. You understand, Slovakia and Hungary, you just need to lay out the foundation. Slovakia and Hungary are really not liked in the European Union. They think, like Ursula in Brussels, that these countries are obstacles. And Zelensky here is, in a way, an accomplice playing along with them, trying to somehow influence Fico and Orban. So he's playing on Ursula's side because Europe gives him money, you see? So they're saying, let's help them put pressure on them. So, you see, there are elections in April, first of all, in Hungary, and Zelensky is kind of throwing a wrench in Orban's plans before the elections, setting him up. And that's the kind of tangled story this is. But we should look at this simply as Ukrainians, and from Ukraine's point of view, does this benefit Ukraine or not? And that's always how the question should be posed in diplomacy. Is it beneficial or not? I'll explain this now and give an example of how Trump handles these situations. Or the same thing with quarreling with neighbors like Slovakia or Hungary. Are these strange neighbors beneficial or not? Clearly, it's not beneficial. Does Orban need to be liked by all Ukrainians or by Zelensky personally? Of course not. No one is liked by everyone. But why put the whole country at risk just because of your personal ego? That's the question I won't stop asking. He also argued with Poland back then about the Volyn massacre. So why do you keep putting Ukraine in a difficult position all the time? Yeah, just step down from your powers. Let an interim president take over. Go ahead, get on YouTube, insult Orban, Putin, Hungary, do whatever you want. But why are you doing this now? And the answer is because someone needs it, because a specific scenario is being played out. By the way, Dubinsky wrote a pretty good version about this. Although, I don't really support his political statements. Maybe about 10%, but 90% I don't support him as a political prisoner. I support him as a person. So he wrote that this is being done in the interests of the so-called, well, that's what I call it, he didn't say it that way, cartel of major gas station networks in Ukraine. because then they will be able to sell more of what is produced in Ukraine instead of importing it from Hungary or other countries. So that's basically the situation. And even now, these companies are making super profits during the war. That's just one version. I'm not saying it's true, just that it's a version. For example, Hetmantsev. He always acts like this when he introduces some kind of cash registers. It's not to collect taxes or do something useful. In reality, he's lobbying for the interests of 5 to 7 large retailers, meaning supermarket chains for whom these small traders are just a thorn in their side. And how can you get rid of them? Make them use cash registers. Because when you have hundreds of supermarkets, you have logistics warehouses, you're a large structure, you know how to get around things, how to handle these cash registers, how to move the money, how to minimize taxes. You have the resources for that. You have dozens of lawyers and accountants working for you in a big company. But the small ones will go bankrupt. They'll just go bankrupt and leave. And these kinds of moves could very well be part of the same story.
But if we sum up this topic, are you for transporting oil through Ukraine or against it? I mean, through Druzhba? I mean, no.
I'm for any economic cooperation with everyone, because we have problems with one neighbor, with two, with Russia, with Belarus. But in the end, we will have to not necessarily like everyone, I'm saying, but to do business with them to some extent. Because today the world is such that if you are not integrated into the global economy, then war comes to you. Everyone should depend on you, you understand?
That's financing the aggressor. What's your point of view?
Look, before this, they were pumping. And when Putin started the hybrid war in 2013, 2014, annexed Crimea and Donbass, the gas pipeline was still operating.
So how could Putin not have planned to keep it running through shelling only this year?
That's exactly the point. Neither of us is financing this. What you said is just the propagandist's argument. Big words just to say, look, Eliseevich is trading with the aggressor. No, guys, I'm not trading with the aggressor. I've never even been there. It's you who are trading with him. And maybe not because they want to, although, we're going to get really deep into this now. When they started digging into Mindich and the schemes he's involved in, he's connected to Semyon Mogilevich's group. Well, that's pure KGB. And I think we're about to go even deeper, but I won't. It's all one web since the first day of the war, and I'm still convinced that there are direct KGB agents at the top of the Ukrainian government. Direct agents, not just agents of influence, there are plenty of those, but direct KGB agents. To some extent, it seems like there's a scenario where Zelensky is faking hatred for Putin and Putin for Zelensky.
Why did the Europeans come to Ukraine yesterday? And if we're talking about Ursula, well, Ursula was surprising. She says that we will continue to impose sanctions against Russia. We will do it. We will allocate these 90 billion and we will definitely give 920 million because you have suffered with energy and you will be restoring it by next year. But what was shocking is that she didn't name a specific year or date for Ukraine's accession to the EU. She says, dates are not important to us. And we always support you. We are always on the same path as you. We are with you. What does this mean to you? Why did she behave like that?
Clarify why she is allocating money.
Why doesn't she name a specific date for Ukraine's accession to the EU at Zelensky's request?
I'll tell you now, I just checked our counter. 934 viewers, please like and promote the stream. It's important. Now I'll answer the question. So yesterday on my stream, I showed this video where she said, you understand. It was clear to me that we won't be in the European Union because we don't need to be there. That's a whole separate topic. We won't be there. But Poroshenko at first, and then Zelensky took over the baton. They dangled the carrot. And Tatiana Ursula, is the main person in the European Union, the head of the European Commission. She looks Zelensky in the eyes and says, you can set any date you want, but we won't tell you ours. And yesterday on my stream, I emphasized that she could have said, we'll take you in by 2030, by 2035, we'll hang another carrot. But things are so bad and obvious that she doesn't even hang the carrot anymore. You can pick any dates you want even tomorrow, but we won't provide one. There are several reasons, the main one being Ukraine doesn't meet any European Union criteria. Today, right before the stream, I was reading my Telegram feed. A man was killed by the TCC, a man was beaten by the TCC. There's Honcharenko in that commission in the Verkhovna Rada. I'll show on the channel. Where's the body cam footage? Oops, it wasn't working there or something. So, you see, it's a big cesspool of a structure where everyone covers for everyone makes money. With this war, A country like that can't be in the European Union. I don't like Ursula. I don't like these main European leaders, this Euro-Soviet, Euro-bureaucracy. But you see, if you look at the official documents, the values of the European Union and the foundations it was built on are spelled out quite specifically. And even with all the problems of the European Union, these illegal migrants and everything, this is unacceptable, simply unacceptable. And you don't have to dig too deep here. I've discussed many times whether we need the European Union, which is a separate topic. So what people need to take from this is that we will never be in the European Union. Stop thinking this goal will make Ukraine rich or that you must dedicate your whole life to it. As with the samurai, the focus isn't the result, but the journey, the samurai's path to the European Union. Life is happening now. We're here talking about Europe and Ukraine. It's the evening of February 25th, 2026. Right here, right now, what reforms can we implement? First, to end the war, of course, but how can we live better right now? And when the question is put that way, think about it. Do we really need an oil pipeline? Druzhba? Probably, if it brings in money, then yes, preferably. I don't know its structure, but it just needs to be handed over to a private company, for example, an American company. The one that runs through Ukraine, like the gas pipeline, though now no one wants it for free. Previously, they offered 40 billion, but now with inflation, it'd be 100. So the question should be raised here and now. At some point, those Dubai sheikhs, I think, said exactly the Emirates. That's what he's talking about. People can compare photos and videos of Dubai in the 90s to today to see how much it has changed since we built everything. When it comes to reforms and our political activity, we tell people here and now, we're not saying you'll be in Dubai in 10 years or that Dubai will be cool in 20 years. It's about here and now. And that's the only perspective any president, prime minister, or party should act from. If they're real, not just talking heads.
We already have more. Thousands of people are watching us on streaming platforms. So I really ask you, please like and share our video because you will really help our channel by doing this. I'm answering.
Write your questions.
Be sure to write them. We will read them out. But I wanted to comment on what you're saying here and now, but we are not given the opportunity to think that way. And we have no authority to influence this situation in any way, because what does Zelensky say? Russia is blocking Ukraine's membership in the EU, and Ukraine could face this situation in 50 years when Putin or the Russian authorities block it. So these 50 years that are ahead of us, that's my age, it will already be coming to an end. I'm answering right your questions. I'll still be thinking about whether we need to join the EU. You understand?
When I hear this from Zelensky, I know, oh, you just asked this. When I hear something like this, it immediately comes to my mind. The Oval Office 1.0, when he tells Trump, yes, even you're wonderful. And J.D. Vance, even you're wonderful. The ocean won't protect you from war if Putin decides to go against America. And he will definitely do it someday. And then there's this famous photo. We are not afraid of anyone, and no one will go to war against us. This is from the same story. And this is a move by manipulators like Zelensky. Now he's telling us what will happen in 50 years. Yeah, you don't know Zelensky. You're definitely not in the loop. What's happening with AI today and how will the world look in a year or two? But he's telling us about 50 years from now, or someone else is. And yeah, maybe in 50 years, Russia will be a super democratic state. I'm sure that with the death, the departure of Putin, or simply, let's say, with Putin losing power, Russia will already turn toward a democratic path. I'm absolutely convinced of this. It may not happen quickly, but I believe it won't remain a dictatorial, totalitarian country. And he's telling us some fairy tales. Why don't you tell us how people are supposed to live today without electricity, without heating, without money, with closed borders, with the fear of the military recruitment office, with Putin's rockets and drones? Discuss that, and more importantly, tell us what will happen tomorrow and after peace arrives, because it will come eventually, you know? I know people who are in Ukraine right now, and I sympathize with everyone. My family is in Ukraine. For many, it feels like this will never end. That's what they say. They write that people will run out, and that's what it turns out to be. Elections will happen sooner or later. This spring, in 3 months, in 6, in 9, but they will take place this year. Someone's time will come, and this house of cards will collapse. But the main question is, will people open their eyes? Will they understand where to look to get to the root, to see and distinguish a real politician from a so-called politician, someone who claims power, let's call them a windbag, a talking head backed by a few people who just want to milk Ukraine, or someone who knows what to do and wants change? With that, I say goodbye. Watch.
I'm reading the comments and people mostly write about peace, about how harshly the TCC acts. Let's move on to the topic of the TCC. People, please continue to write specific questions for Dennis, specific questions. We will read them out and you will get answers to them. When Fedorov was taking his position, he announced that the forced mobilization was not going properly and that it needed to be done differently. Well, I understood that. It's meant to motivate people, so they aren't forced into the war. Something needs to be done about it. Yesterday, he talked about his statements and what the prospects are for Ukraine. The enemy pays a price for every meter, for every kilometer of Ukrainian land. In the Donetsk region, there are 156 soldiers per square kilometer. Our benchmark is over 200 killed occupiers for every square kilometer. A closed sky, full control over the airspace, in other words. Somehow it needs to be closed. In 4 years, we have not managed to do this or to economically exhaust the Russian Federation. The most painful thing here is to lay 200 killed occupiers in a grave, not because we feel sorry for them, but because our people will die in the process. And to achieve this goal, according to our mobilization that is taking place in Ukraine, this is a realistic goal. And why do we need this goal? How would you comment on this?
Let's start from the end right away. This goal, this number, 50,000 Russians per month. At first he said to kill. Now they
calculated.
How many per square kilometer? Tomorrow he'll calculate, I don't know, maybe per square kilometer of air, how many Russians need to be killed. They will calculate anything. To fool, excuse me, idiots, naive people, he will come up with any wording. To close the sky, the first question is, who will close the sky with drones?
He says it's closed by drones?
That's such nonsense. That's such nonsense. I don't even want to talk about it because, you see, the thing is, many people still don't understand. Russia has used a lot of weapons against Ukraine. As for aviation, they have a lot of things they haven't used yet. It's just very expensive. They understand that if we shoot it down, it won't be worth it, and basically Putin hasn't done it yet. But such statements from a country that's bankrupt are already concerning. 90 billion when Vorban blocked it, they don't give it. Panic, shouting, all the Hetmansev's people come out saying in April, think about it, Hetmansev's people come out saying in April, we're done for, that's it. There will be nothing to pay obligations inside the country, to pensioners, social benefits, who to pay to make all these payments. And this one declares, close the sky. When you say, kill 50,000 Russians, 200 per square kilometer, how many of our people will die in the process? If it's 50, I don't agree. If it's 5, I don't agree. We end up with deaths. But Fedorov keeps pushing this line, drones. Let him take a look at what, if I'm not mistaken, the F-22 is. If we have any experts, let them correct me in the chat. The F-22 is the plane that America will use if it bombs Iran. It will be involved there. It's invisible on radar. It's incredible. I watched the video presentation. When you have something like that, you can talk about closing the sky, defeating those guys, all that. But when you have nothing, excuse me, just a bare backside. And how long did they string us along about those F-16s, do you remember? The war started, that fool Reznikov was running around with his handkerchief. Where are they? They gave us 10 planes, right? We don't know. You've already heard about Leopards, about Leopards, about F-16s. Where are the Flamingos?
Itself?
By the way, I watched the video. I don't want to brag too much, but I watched the video, like the Flamingo strike on the plant, which supposedly produced Iskanders, or maybe even Oreshniks in Russia. Well, something like that, it's damaged, but even on camera, you can see it's not a wow, it's just an explosion like this. Well, yes, they damaged it, but was it really a flamingo? How can we prove it, yes or no? I mean, you could write there that it was a nuclear missile, and there are a million such inconsistencies. But the main thing is, this is supposed to make me and the viewers happy. How will Ukraine and those of us who want to live here survive tomorrow? Many people don't get me when I say the world will change, maybe in a year or two. My work is tied to this. I see how artificial intelligence works, and now I'll tell people a little story about it. There's an AI agent, it's the latest thing, so to speak, in this field. And the Pentagon demanded that this company restrict some of its functions. As for nuclear weapons and military technologies in general, this company refused. It refused Pete Hegseth and went hand in hand with the Pentagon itself. Just think about it. So what am I getting at? Now, technology will advance so quickly and everything will move so fast, and that's what we need to think about. That's what we should be considering. And the second episode here, can you imagine? The company went against the Pentagon. Yes, in Ukraine, if you record the wrong video or the wrong TikTok, they're already knocking on your door. Just think about how different life is, people. But when it comes to asking for something, then it's America. How to live like America, by the law, with the same rules for everyone. That doesn't work for us. We have a different mentality. And the government is a sample of people like us. Remember, someone said that people like us go into power. Well, in short, it's a madhouse.
Someone wrote us a comment saying that right now Trump is talking to Zelensky on the phone. Right before our video, I saw that Peskov announced that they are inviting them. This offer is still valid. Zelensky is invited to Moscow. Our government rejects this offer because they say that if there are already concrete prerequisites for signing a peace agreement, if that's the case, then they will invite them. But we see that, and Zelensky says, come to Kyiv. But as for choosing a neutral location, no one is talking about that. And they started talking about the territorial recruitment centers in the Verkhovna Rada. But so far, there are no results from this. And this also looks like some kind of hype or PR. What happened? Yesterday, there was a situation like this. Official media were reporting one thing, Telegram channels another. But here's the main point. Yesterday, the Territorial Recruitment Center wanted to check the documents of a young man, and his documents were not in order, meaning he could be called up to the front. His father started to defend him. People began to protect this man from the Territorial Recruitment Center, and the young man had a knife in his pocket. He injured one of the Territorial Recruitment Center workers, but before that, the worker fired a shot into the air. So we can already see the beginning of a kind of war, you could say, between law enforcement, territorial recruitment center workers, and ordinary people. Because the law doesn't work in any way, and people are now trying to establish order themselves however they can. If we follow this plan that Fedor is talking about, what will it lead to in society?
Let me answer now, then we'll move on. I checked. Trump is talking to Zelensky with negotiations tomorrow. I want to inform people it's important. Regarding the TCC, I'll tell you again, it's useless to think or guess. TCC acts with fascist methods, but we need to show aggression not only towards the people who work there directly. These people don't show initiative at first, but then they lose their minds too because of impunity. Who let this happen in the country? The issue concerns top leadership and needs serious, thorough discussion. The TCC will keep acting lawlessly. And notice, Tatiana, that the lawlessness is increasing every week. Impunity, that's the answer. Today they feel untouchable and above us. No one told them, do whatever you want. Vasya Popkin or Zelensky will cover for you. No. You sense what message the authorities send. This person says, these are cattle, not people, referring to us and calling our people cattle. So this is a real fascist. This is with Korchinsky there, who is also connected with this. Also a fascist. You see, that's what we're talking about. Let's discuss the Trump-Zelensky conversation. Tomorrow there are negotiations in Geneva. Immediately after the Geneva talks, most likely, definitely Umerov, the local law, definitely Umerov, and possibly Budanov will fly to Florida, to Miami, again to Witkoff, Kushner, and their teams. Trump's call is solely about this. And so far, I don't know anything about this. I'll be honest with you, but something tells me that this is preparation for negotiations. And it will sound something like this. Listen, this endless talk can't go on all the time and really endlessly. Let's get somewhere. I won't be sending Kushner and Witkoff every week for nothing. Let's move forward faster. That's what I want to tell you.
I put a comment on the screen. Someone is asking, why did Umerov go to America before the negotiations? I remember that this happened too. At that time, Nabu tapes started being published and Umerov was in America then. And allegedly, he was supposed to persuade Zelensky and our delegation to sign these peace agreements, but then something went wrong. What do you think? Why did he go there?
He didn't go before. I'm telling you, he'll go after, since today is the 25th. He needs to get to Florida.
That was about 2 months ago.
I'm answering the person. The person asked why he's going before, and I'm saying he'll go after. As for that, well, it's a complicated issue, complicated negotiations. Don't forget, our delegation has changed. The composition of our delegation has changed. That's also very important. And well, of course, we have to pay attention to all of this. But tomorrow will be interesting. Tomorrow, the main news will come.
A person is asking, what do you think after the war? Will the language issue be resolved according to the constitution of Ukraine? Or will there still be division into proper Ukrainians and ordinary ones?
And into Moskvoroti, it says there into proper ones and into Moskvoroti.
Into Moskvoroti, yes, that's right.
It's pointless for people to ask such questions. Or Dennis, what do you think after the war about this? I You don't know who will be in power, and maybe it will be even worse depending on who comes to power, or maybe it will be completely democratic. That's all. I can't and don't want to guess who will be in power. That's just how it is.
Regarding our conversation on oil, Eliseevich accuses Europe of buying Russian oil and now says that they need to act in their own interests and pump oil to Slovakia. That's what we talked about with you.
You see how they interpret it right away? Eliseevich is for pumping oil to Slovakia, but Eliseevich isn't in power and doesn't decide anything. I basically told you that we will have to trade with everyone. And when we talk about Europe's volumes and about this, those are two very different things. We're talking about hundreds of billions of euros, the amount Putin spent on the war and what Europeans gave him. And it's not about the interests of third parties there. In this case, we are serving the interests of third parties. Here, it's the same EU countries. But you see, they needed something to latch onto. Eliseevich is blamed for everything, even though it's Zelensky who makes all the decisions, but Eliseevich is at fault.
One person asks if Budanov can sign anything, and another person replies that Budanov can't sign anything. So tomorrow, if this meeting takes place, no one will be signing anything. It will only be agreements about the terms on which the negotiating groups can come together. And then the guarantor of the constitution or a representative of the Verkhovna Rada must be the one to sign on behalf of Ukraine.
Well, it's not a fact yet that the guarantor will sign anything. I bet that Zelensky won't sign anything. Remember my words, he won't sign anything. And after Ursula's response, he definitely won't withdraw troops from Donbas. Ursula, as we discussed today, took away his last leverage that he could have used in the elections. He's panicking right now. He's panicking about Budanov. Well, let's say your line of thinking is correct, but don't expect the signing tomorrow or next week. Technical negotiations are ongoing, and a framework agreement is still far from being signed.
From? Asks Sanders. But sorry, I don't understand your question. Are you asking me to ask Dennis something? But if there's someone I should ask and he should comment on it, please write more specifically because it's not quite clear. People are asking what will happen after the war. Well, what will happen after the war? You have repeatedly said that after the war, there will be an even harder period than there is now. And regarding who will work in Ukraine right now, Bangladesh, Nepal, they are being invited to come here to work now in Ukraine because a Ukrainian man is not able to go out and calmly get to his workplace because he will be mobilized right away. So this man has to go to the front to provide jobs and a better standard of living for Bangladeshis.
Well, yes, but people need to understand what Nepal and Bangladesh, or say Uzbekistan, basically Central Asia, are for. Because they will vote for those who bring them here, for the authorities they are told to vote for. They don't care about Ukraine as a whole, the way we love and feel for Ukraine. They won't have that, which is completely natural. People should always remember this.
Thank you. I don't think Dennis has any opinion about the other person. They're asking if you have any thoughts about Nazarkik. Do you think he's against Trump? Nazarkik is a blogger who was on our channel. People like him. He's an interesting young guy. But no, when someone asks me...
They ask, Dennis, what do you think about Nazarkik? I won't say anything bad about him, but as for everything else, you need expertise to discuss it. You even had Lisovsky on your channel. Imagine if you invite me now and I say, Tatiana, I'll tell you how to write music and how to play the piano. I'll look like a madman because I don't know how to do that. That's my whole answer.
Someone writes that Ursula finally did something normal. She put Bonevtik in his place. I think she did something normal. This is about the money. Yesterday she gave 920 million. She said it's for energy. No.
She didn't give him a date.
What? Dennis, do you agree that trust in the government and the country takes more than just a decade? So I understand that it takes a very long period of time to restore people's trust in the government.
Please display the questions on the screen so it's easier to see and not forget the question. I will answer. A year after the war, Ukraine could be unrecognizable in a good way if the right people are in power in a year. Let me tell you quickly, Tatiana. For example, yesterday I posted official data on my Telegram channel. Argentina's GDP grew by 0.4% last year, in 2025. Some people come and say, well, that's not so great. But Argentina's GDP for 2024 was 650 billion. So 4% is almost $30 billion of growth. That's in a country with tens of thousands % inflation, lots of problems, lots of debt, lots of everything. That's a phenomenal result. I'm telling you how quickly you can deliver results. In the case of Ukraine, we will grow by tens of % in the first 2 years if everything is done correctly by tens of %.
It's hard for us to believe that we can achieve this quickly, looking at the results we have today. So today we read this kind of news. A 16-year-old girl and a 19-year-old boy in the Sviatoshinsky district of Kiev set fire to 3 Tesla cars on the orders of the Russian Federation. They only received $20, which is a very minimal payment. Some people wouldn't even go to work for $20 a day. On that same day, we read that money meant for building airfield defenses was stolen, a bribe of $320,000. And that's why, with such a huge gap between the living conditions of ordinary people and those in power, we end up distrusting that anything can be restored quickly.
You see, here's the thing. I brought up this topic on my stream yesterday. So, those Starlinks that were registered to themselves in Snap, they were given $30 each, but they're facing a life sentence. Let's ask ourselves a simple question. And today, they published another SBU officer on Bihus, set his bail at 5 million. So, I have a question. Who did more harm to the state? The one who stole from the ministry or the one who burned a car for a Russian? To be clear, I strongly urge you not to consider burning anyone's car, especially for Russians. That's a terrible betrayal and humiliating for you. No matter the amount of money, but if you compare it like that, one gets a life sentence while the other might just get out on bail. That's something to think about. Consider how poor people are, that for just $20 or $30 they'll work for the enemy and hurt their own citizens and country.
A person writes in response to this comment, you can't even imagine what's happening here. Really, men can't go outside. It's just terrible. And what will the situation be like if men can't get to work? They'll just bring in people from Nepal, from Bangladesh. Will our government allow the collapse of this economy since we're in such a situation, to the point that men will be ready to go fight for those tiny wages they're being paid?
No, it's about life. No one will go fight even for pennies anymore. Like I said, 10, 20,000 might go, but not 200, 300,000.
They say that you will make people think, but most of us want the easy way out. People want the easy way. That's why we have this problem. Will the martial law really be extended? Will it be extended? And since elections cannot be held under martial law, or will it not be extended anymore? What do you think?
First of all, the elections will be held under new laws, and Zelensky wants to push through a law that would allow elections to be held under martial law. First, people should remember that. Second, martial law can be extended for 3 months, but the president can cancel it in 10 minutes with a signature as the law allows. You shouldn't pay attention to that. From the point of view of peace negotiations, elections, ending the war, that's what I mean.
TCCs cannot be untouchable. We need a law on punishment for, say, demobilization. Dmitry Razumkov said this today. That means we don't have a law that allows people to be forcibly mobilized into the army. Here it happens by default. The authorities don't tell us that everyone needs to be mobilized. But Razumkov says that yes, a law should be passed to prevent this from happening. What do you think? Is this just playing to the public, so to speak, to boost his ratings because of what's happening? It feels like elections are really coming soon.
Yes, Razumkov is playing the same game as Geoleros, and especially Honcharenko. The elections are coming soon, and Razumkov knows it. 3 or 4 trigger points. Tax increases, the military enlistment offices, the end of the war, AWOL, draft dodgers, all these topics that affect millions, he brings them up. But imagine, if tomorrow they arrest all the military enlistment officers, every single one of them. Who gave them the right to do this? And who was the ideologist behind such mobilization? Through aggression and force, they act like this and will get away with it. Let me remind everyone, people have forgotten. Once, Kuchma created Titan. I think that's what the organization was called. They were special police in special uniforms. And on their backs, if anyone remembers, right in the chat, it said Titan. They did whatever they wanted. This was a specially created service to cover for the authorities, to do their various tasks. What's the point of replacing all the Titan members if Kuchma created them in the first place? So here too, we need to look at the top leadership.
A person writes, Milei doesn't work alone. I also read that the GDP growth happened. You commented on the fact that he wasn't alone. How important do you think it is to have a very productive team? I'll plug in my laptop charger, and please, if you can, answer this person's question about Milei not working alone.
So, Milei doesn't work alone, but I didn't understand why you wrote that. Could you please clarify in the chat what you meant? Of course, Milei doesn't work alone. Milei has ministers working for him, and first of all, he has a whole team of people. Write what the context is. I gave you a detailed answer regarding Milei.
They keep writing. If only Ukrainians could wake up like the Argentinians did, there would be their own milice in Ukraine too.
That's right, Tatiana. Put the questions on the screen so people can read them, and I can read what we're discussing.
They're writing, you can really stop the war. Who in their right mind would go to die at the front? That's true, but the authorities just don't want to hear it or understand the people, that people aren't ready to go to the front. They're not ready to die. And those who are at the front right now, they dream of coming home. But yesterday, the authorities speaking said that we have values. That's why we're fighting, because we're standing for the whole. But in reality, our situation is very difficult. That's how I understood it.
Values, as Zelensky said, mean we acknowledge our corruption while Russians don't, or at least we discuss it and they don't. Who can define these values? I can name the values that should exist in Ukraine. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and in general, personal freedom. The most important thing is personal freedom. A free economy, the right to profit, the freest country in Europe. These are the values. Human life is value number one. Let Zelensky or whoever said that name the values.
I also wanted to mention values regarding the allocation of money. Additional funds for Ukrainian railways to operate, but they say there won't be much of this money. Again, they're talking about the need to raise freight transportation tariffs so that passenger transportation can be more affordable for people. You keep saying over and over that such institutions just need to be privatized. The authorities insist that they need to be funded by the state, raise tariffs and taxes, and that this is the only way.
I'm preparing a video about Ukrposhta on my channel, and it requires some preparation. This is one of the reforms that should specifically concern Ukrposhta and Ukrainian railways. There will be a video about all of it. I'll tell you alone. During Leshchenko's time on the board of directors, or rather the supervisory board of Ukrzaliznytsia, the losses amounted to 18.6 billion hryvnias. That's about $500 million. Just think about that for a second. It's like with water. Someone registered it for themselves, and for life, they'll end up in prison. You have to think about that.
A person writes, is there an interesting video about Denis and Reva on Zoya Kuskovaya's channel today? Please write what you find most interesting, what you like.
I wouldn't advertise someone like that on my show.
All right, it seems like the questions are over. If anyone still has any questions, please write them and we will move on to another topic. Yesterday, there was an idea suggested that elections can't be held in Ukraine because people, and this exact word was used, are dumbed down. That is, we are currently not in a normal state. And if we hold elections with people in such an abnormal condition, the results will also be abnormal. For some reason, when I read that phrase, it seemed to me that some kind of political process is being revived by those in power and people don't like it. People understand that we need to look for others. Healthy political competition is emerging and it will give us good leaders. And they say that we are becoming idiots. How can you comment on that? I mean,
who said people are becoming idiots?
Was it a local government official? I don't remember exactly because I didn't plan to touch on this topic today, but I just remembered it.
When someone tells you under any pretext that elections shouldn't be held, that it's not allowed to hold elections, that's already a bad sign, and everything becomes clear. Such a person, the people are not dumbed down, then will carry out the absurd.
And what is meant is that they are brainwashed, that these people are influenced by propaganda. And just like we have, they wrote...
Filatov said this was said by Filatov.
I remember he was an official, yes.
Granted, Filatov has been Dnipro's mayor for 11 years. First, where Filatov, under Poroshenko's rule, would come out and speak. After Poroshenko sent planes after Korban, his friend and closest business partner, He nearly sent tanks after Corbyn. Then his friend Filatov comes out just to hold on to power to the trough and says, without Petro Alexievich, not a single kindergarten in Ukraine is being built or operating basically without Petro Alexievich. The sun in the morning, you see, doesn't rise, doesn't come up. So that's it. There's literally no sunrise. This is all typical Ukrainian politics.
It's a normal phenomenon when competitors emerge because people believe that this government has already exhausted its potential and resources, and other people come in. Doesn't this just show that it's a normal political process? What do you think?
We're still very far from a normal political process. A normal political process is when you can live in your own country and say what you want, when the telethon isn't running, when there's no persecution for words, not a hint of it, there is no political process.
By the way, we had a guest yesterday who talked about this, but it came up just recently. There was also information that the Russians are spreading rumors that supposedly the UK and France, and Medvedev said that they will not allow this. And so someone is asking, can the Russian Federation launch nuclear weapons if they go through a full or partial mobilization?
I don't understand what mobilization has to do with nuclear weapons. Why mobilize if you can just use nukes? First of all, that doesn't add up. Secondly, every year of war really does increase the chances of using tactical nuclear weapons. Another thing is that with Trump in power, Putin won't do it. But I want to tell you something else about these rumors that France and Britain have supplied something to Ukraine. Indeed, France has top nuclear specialists. France helped create nuclear weapons for Israel, for example. As you know, Israel officially denies having nuclear weapons. I don't believe it because I saw it, I saw it in the X feed when it wasn't anywhere else yet from certain speakers. And I know these speakers are paid. Russia came up with another topic that they are going to push. This is pure KGB style. Who would give Zelensky a nuke? Come on, people. Think logically. Just think about it. They don't even want to give him money, and you think they'll give him a nuke.
Yesterday, our guest who was on air is an expert on this issue. He says that our current government would either sell this weapon or launch it at Russia. You can't imagine the outcome we'd get. So is it good we don't have nuclear weapons? A person is asking, so how can you express your position publicly so that the authorities don't deprive us of our freedom through executive bodies?
Well, that's a question. If I say now you go on YouTube, you'll have problems, or on some social network, you just can't. Support people like me, support everyone who says things that suit you, about values, real values of freedom and common sense. You will have problems right away if you start doing that.
I think the person wants to clarify with you in what way. US Vice President J.D. Vance expressed confidence in the need to continue diplomatic efforts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. Well, nothing new. We don't hear that any new means or methods of pressure will be applied. For now, it's just negotiations as before. No.
No one will say anything publicly. As I said, there's more pressure on Zelensky behind the scenes than in public, and no one will make it public. Tomorrow, there likely won't be any major news. If there is, great. There will be some changes, but not as much information as people expect. J.D. Vance gave an interview and answered the question again. He simply responded, "There's nothing more to discuss."
We get a lot of comments from you. People say that's how it is. For some reason, they decided to mention Natalka Muzichuk here, but we have different positions. Basically, we answered the questions that people asked us. Let's sum up our conversation. So, the negotiations will continue tomorrow, but we still don't know what they will be like. We feel that there won't be any real constructiveness in them. The Territorial Recruitment Center is carrying out a tough mobilization. From what we've seen, Fedorov's statements say that it will be changed, somehow restructured. This mobilization won't happen. Yes.
This will only happen right before the elections. It will be one of the pre-election steps. That's what he's been talking about for a month and a half already. Fedorov, you see, it's not just that it didn't work out. The work in this direction didn't even start at all. It's only gotten worse. There's your answer.
We see that things have only gotten worse. Mobilization has become even more difficult. It's gotten to the point where even men are changing their status so they won't be called up to the military recruitment office. Children with disabilities are being sent to orphanages, and if a single father is taking care of such a child, the father is sent to the front. The situation is terrible, but we won't lose our optimism because honestly, we still have great prospects. It takes time to become a developed country. But as you assure us, if things develop normally, 3 years will be enough for us to recover and at least start living a normal life.
Of course, with the right government and the right reforms, people will see the effect in 2 or 3 months. The first one, and then it only increases, and always remember, reforms are done all at once and immediately. If someone says you need to tighten your belts for 10 years, they're not planning to implement reforms. Well, it's about the same as with Zelensky. There was a lot of talk, a lot of populist talk, but nevertheless, no reforms happened at all in the first 6 months, and there still aren't any to this day. It's the same with Poroshenko, as he said, though I don't recall his exact words. The slogan, "A new country living in a new way," isn't new. If we didn't start living in a new way right away, then we never will. And that's how it always turns out. As soon as Poroshenko started, things only got worse, then Zelensky started, and it just kept going downhill. That's how everyone keeps going downhill in Ukraine.
Thank you for this conversation. I encourage our viewers to subscribe to our channel. Believe me, we really need your activity on our channel right now. We truly need it like air right now. Also, please subscribe to Denis Elisevich's channel. Thank you for joining us today and for all your comments and compliments. Finally, I'll say that people, Denis, are asking me to tell you that they are waiting for you this year or at the latest next year in Kyiv.
Thank you. I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you.